Drake, what is your number one game?
My favorite game of all time is Persona 5 Royal. Now, this
Persona 5?
Yeah, this one is interesting because I'm willing to bet there's an entire audience out there, the type of people who are screaming, "Let's go, Gabe, Titanfall is the best game ever." They're supporting you, who are looking at my Persona 5 Royal take and literally asking, "What is that game?" Like, there's probably
I'm asking, what is this game, dude? I'm like looking it up right now. It's like, what is Persona 5?
Persona 5 is a Japanese role-playing game, which is interesting because I generally don't like Japanese role-playing games. This was my first one, and it is the best one, and it is the best game I have ever played in my life, bar none. So, getting into the aspects that make this game what it is, maybe I should give a brief rundown of what it actually is. The Persona series has always been a series revolved around essentially two concepts. One of them is living out a high school teenage life with a group of friends. It's kind of a social simulator in that aspect. It takes the social simulation genre, applies it to high schoolers, and you live a day-by-day high schooler life. So that's one aspect of it, which on its face doesn't actually attract a guy like me. Like, when I first read about what this game was, I was like, that sounds pretty lame. That sounds stupid. I hate social simulators. I like companions and stuff, but the general social sim genre is not my thing. But it pairs that up with Final Fantasy Pokemon style combat, where you have turn-based combat, and then you have these creatures called personas. And they're not so much creatures as much as they are like demons and spirits. And, you know, like Pokemon, some of them counter others, and you do this turn-based combat system with counters and things like that. And it's a really good engaging combat system. I've always liked turn-based combat because it takes a little more time, a little more strategy.
I didn't expect you to be a turn-based kind of guy for your number one game. That's actually really interesting to me.
Yeah, I like turn-based, but it's very rare that I engage with turn-based. But when it does it well, some of my favorite format of gaming for sure, because I'm a thinker. And this game isn't so much about the thinking. The best aspect of the game is the social simulation, and I'll get into that. But I have notes. I have lots of notes, and I'm going to go one by one here. So the first thing that makes Persona what it is, it has the best user interface, the best art system, the best style. The style of the game is unlike anything you'll see. Every Persona game really has this unique sense of, I guess, art and design. And Persona 5 Royal of all the Persona games is my favorite. It uses this black, red, and white coloring to create this sense of, like, darkness. The main group of individuals call themselves the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. And it has this sense of noir to it. And it does so in this prog rock jazz style that there's nothing like it. I don't know how to put words to it at times because it is so original and artistic. And from the moment you load up the game, you know you've never seen anything quite like it. It's so niche. It's so... I can't quite think of the word, but it's original. It is as original as anything I've ever seen, and I love everything about its style, which leads into the fact that it has the best soundtrack of any game I've ever played. Now, some people like Persona 4 better, Persona 3 better, but people who like the Persona games, the soundtrack is integral. Persona is known for its soundtrack. The soundtrack is so good that I listen to it at the gym to this day. I listen to its songs in the car to this day. I listen to a Persona 5 song every day at the gym. So there's this unique blend in the soundtrack between rock, jazz, and classical music, right? Does a really good job of using its strings section to build this sense of epicness, this sense of grandness. It uses jazz to build this sense of, like, the social simulation, right? Like, things are smoother, things are calmer. This is kind of a settled scene, right? The way you would listen to lo-fi music. Pair that up with this blend of, like, prog rock and this singing that is much more akin to, like, 80s hair metal almost. Not hair metal is not the right term, but glam metal, glam rock. This like, oh, strength. There's strength in my vocals to go with this rock, but they've still got that jazz and classical. It is a beautiful blend that creates this sense of scale, even in small moments of combat. And so, as a guy who grew up with rock and roll, Guns N' Roses, when I first heard this soundtrack and there's this rock jazz beat going while I'm doing this Pokemon style combat system, I'm like, ooh, yeah, like bump and I'm just jamming out, dude. It's so goofy. I know I'm being goofy, but that's the vibe, man. Is I'm just like, dude, I'm just going with it, man. Okay, I feel it. Even talking about it, I get this feeling of energy that I just want to jump through this computer screen and break it and then go steal a heart. I don't know, bro.
ODST's soundtrack makes me do that.
Dude.
So does this game I've never played, Nier Automata. I've listened to the whole soundtrack. I'm like, this game's soundtrack is its highlight.
Yeah.
This is it.
Anyways, after embarrassing myself trying to describe the music, let's get into the story and the social simulation aspect. So you're playing as a high schooler, and a big aspect of this game is that you have these individuals called confidants. These are your companions and individuals who are integral to the story. And these confidants, as you choose to go about the game, because this is a life simulation, you have blocks of time, and it goes one day at a time, and you have to choose how you spend these blocks of time. You can use them either building up social stats or interacting with other characters to build your relationships. And it does such a good job of incentivizing you to get close to your allies and squad mates, because with each social level or each social skill, you unlock certain benefits. And a lot of them are combat oriented, and a lot of them are resource oriented. So you're incentivized to form these relationships so that you can better play the game. But when you pair that up with the fact that these are some of the best written characters in all of fiction, and I mean that. And the reason I can say that is because of how long the game is. So I'll kind of blend the social system into the length of the game and the story. The story is really long. And when I say long, a single playthrough of this game that's, you take your time, you're not skipping a ton of dialogue. 100 to 120 hours. One playthrough. And by doing this...
Are you kidding me?
By doing this, you spend as much time with these individuals as you would like a 10-season television show. You get engaged into what makes each of these characters who they are. And they're so down to earth, so believable. It does a really good job of crafting these backgrounds for these characters where they don't just feel like fictional characters that are well written. They feel like your friends. You're engaging.
So it's not like that over the top anime, like exaggerated discussion base.
Well, what's kind of interesting is they take a lot of the tropes of anime, but then flesh them out into a believability. So take the character of An. I'll say this because she's one of the first characters you interact with. She is she's blonde, she's attractive, she's supposed to be like somewhat sexualized, which I'm not a fan of, but she's clearly more of that objectified object. But as you get to know her as an individual, her bubbliness, the way she looks at the world, the way she interacts with the world, makes so much sense that it becomes believable. So you take that initial trope of an anime character and the way they behave, and then you flesh out the characteristics that form this individual, and she is suddenly more than this objectified anime character. She's a very real person in those moments. And this game, more than any other game, made me believe that I was going on an adventure with a group of friends. And that these friends really mattered. And I can't think of a game, maybe Mass Effect 2, but even infinitely more than Mass Effect 2, made me care about each individual character. Because their flaws all stem from events in their lives that are so believable and so real that there are even moments where characters said, I went through this. And you begin to understand why that character behaves the way they did. And you start to say, wow, like, that's kind of why I do what I do. I have been through similar experiences that create these personality traits. No game does a better job of that, and it's specifically because this game takes its time. If you can't rush this game, and if you don't rush this game, you will see how it creates believable characters and a narrative that doesn't, like, somehow it doesn't jump the shark. If you get to the end of the game, and I just describe it as like this giant mythological battle with powers that are like beyond humanity's main realm. It's a metaphysical warfare. But it starts off as a social simulator with high schoolers. And somehow, from getting from point A to point B, it never jumps the shark. That's impressive writing. That is well-paced, impressive writing. This game is so good, I played it twice in a row and sank like 240 hours into it. It's all I played for like 4 months, dude, at least. And when I say played for 4 months, I mean like, it's all I did. I was so obsessed with it. And no game in every aspect of what it tries to do, in multiple genres, has had me engaged that long with that sense of depth, where I cared so deeply about its story, where I cared so much about its characters that when things happened to them, I felt tinges of emotions that are like deep. They aren't just tinges. That's not even the right word. I'm like getting choked up just thinking about how much nostalgia is wrapped around my experience front to back of this game, not once, but twice.
So you dumped like 240 hours into it?
Yeah, dude. I went through 2 full...
That's insane.
The only reason I haven't done a third playthrough is because I look at my life and say, I don't have the time for 100 hours right now. But if I did, I would do it again. It's so good front to back in every way. And so, I mean, I can't give enough praises to everything Persona 5 Royal does. It does things that are controversial. And maybe we can talk about them in another podcast. And it does things that I don't like, that I really, really, really don't like, but it has nothing to do with the game design or the story or anything. It's just some decisions that they made in the social sim aspect. But as a video game, it is the best gaming experience of my life. It is the single best media experience of my life. It is right up there in terms of emotional impact and joy I experienced from being obsessed with the MCU all the way from Iron Man to Endgame. It's that level of epic scale and emotional impact on my experience of consuming media. And all games end up in comparison to this game for me.